This is Jim Minion from Two Loose Screws. I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show where we talk about all things that are important in the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up in about 13 minutes from now, maybe 12 minutes from now, somebody who has not appeared on the show in a long time, and it is not an exaggeration to say years, maybe over 10 years. However, through his lifespan and genesis with the show, became an integral part, was, I guess, what I would consider to be a fairly long-time sponsor of the show, was a competitive cook, a retailer in the live fire business, and then for the last 2, 3, maybe 4 years, as the embedded correspondents and I go through the guest Hall of Fame nominations, this name started to get brought up, and this year in 2024, he finally waltzed over the threshold and became a Hall of Fame member. The Smokin guitar player returns to the show for an origin story. Fred Bernardo will join us. Fred will be in for 14 past and 35 past because we need to have time in order to do the origin story right. So I'm going to venture a guess and say that the majority of you that listen to the show nowadays, if you're not really, really, really long-time fans of the show, you probably don't even know who Fred is or what he meant to the industry, how he was, let's say, a visionary of sorts, leading into things that have become way mainstream now. He was way ahead of it. A Renaissance man of sorts. So we'll talk to Fred, learn all about him and his youth and how he grew up and where the food interest came from. Was he a collegiate man? Is there a love story to be told? And then how do you get into barbecue and why'd you get out of barbecue? All the stories will be revealed here tonight in the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour for her last appearance in 2024. Creator of Hardcore Carnivore line of products and the recipe writer over at JessPryles.com. Jess Pryles joins the show. And then 35 past the second hour. You usually find him 35 past the first hour in the third Tuesday of the month, but he graciously bowed out of that segment and said, I'll finish the show. We'll come out of the bully tonight. Creator of CookoutNews.com, Wes Wright, joins the show to close. So that's how the show is laying out. Fred Bernardo's origin story in the first hour, Jess Pryles' second hour, and Wes Wright in the second hour as well. And look here, our good pal Gordon Thompson checking in through Facebook chat. Most people are tuning in through YouTube. Gordon, you do what you want to do. But there is a continued lively chat that may or may not have anything to do with the show over on YouTube. Hey, don't forget, you can follow me socially on Instagram, the Twitter, the TikToks, the Snappy Snaps, and the LinkedIns, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching this show tonight through one of our streaming platform partners, Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, or Twitter.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can watch on YouTube, which is YouTube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this, including all guests. After last week's miss of his segment, is it time to boot Meathead off the show? 2 no-shows is too many. And currently, 57% of you are saying no. I got to be honest, I'm surprised even 2 people said yes. But we are all, it just changed now, 60% of people saying no. So starting to bridge the gap the other way. We were getting closer and closer to 50-50, which is always the goal here on these YouTube poll questions of the week. Can we split the audience? And a little bit more than half of the normal votes that we would get have already been cast here in the first 6 minutes of the show. So now 62% of you are saying no. So it is going a little bit better for Meathead, even over the last handful of seconds. 38% of you are saying yes, we should kick him off the show. I agree and disagree with the question at the same time. Results of the poll from last week's show, I asked everybody, does Al McAuliffe make you want to be a cigar smoker? This one closer to 50-50, but 56% of you indeed said no. No matter how great of a storyteller and a businessman and all this other stuff that Al McAuliffe really is, and the great stories that he regaled us with 2 weeks ago, it doesn't push you any closer into becoming a premium hand-rolled cigar passionado like I and so many other barbecue lovers are. So we'll start here this evening. In keeping with the poll question of the week, and many of you emailed in over the course of this past week asking if Meathead was okay, I can assure you with 100% assurity that he is indeed fine. He replied back to me the next day, said he had dinner, and ended up falling asleep in his easy chair, and that was that. Look, you get to the advanced ages of a meathead, and if you sit down and accidentally fall asleep after dinner, that could be it for your evening. Obviously, it was for him last Tuesday. The good news is this. He's okay. Meathead, what many, and myself included, consider to be a national treasure. We must protect him at all costs. So some extra hours of shut-eye extend his dwindling number of years, I'll take it. However, we have communicated over the past weekend, and starting in 2025, we have agreed to a revised schedule of appearances. He will go from his standard monthly segment to now a quarterly segment. This is probably a schedule I will keep with others as well. That third Tuesday of the month has a great lineup of quarterly guests. I could do that with the second Tuesday of the month as well. We could do a Meathead, Steven Reichlin. I can think of some others right off the top of my head. I believe Chris Young said he was interested in doing a quarterly appearance. Mr. Jonathan from Two Guys Smoke Shop and Cigar Authority's podcast said he would be interested. Also, David Gafford from the Barbecue Lab said he's into doing something on a recurring quarterly basis. So plenty to choose from, plenty to line it out with. So what do you want to hear from, or who do you want to hear from 4 times a year? Let me know. Send me an email. Tell me the names of the folks I should be getting in touch with, and we'll see what we can also line up as well. Maybe start to dwindle some of the monthly guests and get quarterly guests for a varying and differentiating opinion on live fire. Also, Many of you asking how my parents fared through Hurricane Milton last week. So first of all, thank you for asking, number one. And then number two, I certainly don't want to speak for them, so maybe they would give us an update on their own at some point during the show this evening. But I can tell you with 100% assurity they are alive. And by all accounts seem to be doing better than average. Could have been way worse. The things can always be worse, right? I mean, that's what we know without a shadow of a doubt, that no matter how bad things are, whatever you're into, they can always be worse. The best news of the evening is that Fred Bernardo was in the green room. He's getting ready to share his origin story with the Centralites. And for the official record for barbecue in general that could be listened to 40 and 180 years from now, people will find out who Fred Bernardo is in the next decade or two, because we'll have it on tape. Did you take part in the Schwank Grills offer last week that ended yesterday? Did you? Oh, I hope you did. But if you didn't, the good news is this: you still can buy a Schwank grill. It still will reach 1,500 degrees of searing temperature using infrared burner technology that they have developed. What does it mean to you? You can now grill the juiciest steaks you've ever tasted in minutes. Not tens and 20s of minutes, but 10 minutes. Or 4 minutes, or 3 minutes, depending on thickness. No more wasting your life cooking the proteins you want. Schwank Grill does it quickly and with great results. Remember, at 1,500 degrees for the steaks, you can build that delicious crust on both sides without overcooking it. Incredibly juicy, incredibly flavorful. Nothing like this grill. In fact, some are calling it the future of grilling. Now look, I don't need to go on and on about how cool this thing is. You know its portability. You know its multiple levels that you can raise it to control the intensity of the heat depending on what you're cooking. You know you can pretty much cook anything you want on it. I mean, have a look at it right here. This thing is tremendous. Stainless steel. It's very sexy. But Centralites want a deal. Of course you do. Here it is right now. If you go to schwankgrills.com, SCHWANK, schwankgrills.com, and use promo code BBQ Central at checkout, you can save $150 off said Schwank grill. It's that easy to save money and enjoy restaurant quality heat. There's also a link in the show notes, link in the show newsletter. You can go to the homepage, click on the Schwank Grills logo on the main page of the website under the sponsors category. Many different ways to do it. Just make sure you use promo code BBQ Central when you're checking out so you can save $150. Think about that. You save that money, you could buy those lobster tails that you're seeing being cooked in front of you, or those prime or Wagyu steaks. It's up to you. It's your $150 that you save. We're back with Fred Bernardo, the Smokin guitar player. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com. Your number one source for quality wood pellets. Visit cookinpellets.com to view their products, and then go to Amazon.com or Walmart.com or Lowe's.com to purchase. Same great products, even better shipping rates. Chris Becker and the gang over at cookinpellets.com. If you recall, last month, the Embedded Correspondents and I put a new Guest Hall of Fame class in for 2024. My next guest, someone who was mentioned at least 2, 3, maybe 4 times as someone who should be in the Guest Hall of Fame. And this year, He finally garnered the required unanimous vote count to cross over the threshold and join the class of 2024. If you go way back with the show, you know him as the Smokin guitar player, the pitmaster of Tasty Licks Barbecue Team, the proprietor of Tasty Licks Barbecue Supply, and the driver of his competition RV, known as Barbecue One. Here to give us his origin story, a longtime friend, also a longtime sponsor of the show. He is the one and the only Fred Bernardo. Fred, how are you, pal?
I'm here, buddy. How about you? How you doing?
I am so excited. It's been incredibly too long. To me, an icon in the industry that kind of fell off, and I lost track. And
it's good to hear I got all 4 votes.
Yeah, 5 votes, actually. All 5 votes.
Oh, 5.
Yes, that's right. We added a new embedded correspondent early part of the year, I think it was. So now you got to get 5 unanimous votes, which is great. And you were brought up, as I'd mentioned in the open, maybe 2, 3, 4 different times. And I think it was a combination of I've never heard of this guy by some of the folks, and then over the years they go back. John does a best of show, or they go back on their own to research, and they're like, you know what? This guy was something else. As I said in the open, a Renaissance man of sorts, which we're going to learn all about. But before we get into that, we got to know Fred the person before we knew him as the Smokin guitar player and proprietor of Tasty Licks Barbecue Supply. When and where was a Fred Bernardo born?
Well, I was born in Temple, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Reading, Pennsylvania. Little suburb, early 50s. And me and a whole bunch of my buddies all grew up there and in suburban area, and went to the local high school, did the whole thing. High school, I was in the stage band. I'm a guitar player, so I didn't play in marching band. But we had a stage band, and I was a guitar player there, and I had a garage band with my buddies, and we'd play at school dances and an occasional wedding, whatever we could scrape up. And that's kind of how it started. But that stage band was very influential. I just happened to have a music teacher of the stage band there that was a sort of a swing aficionado, and really kind of left his mark on me and my buddies. Quite a few of us became professional musicians. I don't know if that's good or bad, but here we are,
I know music is an important part, because before Tasty Licks Barbecue Supply, there was Fred's music. We'll get to that here in a second. But as you recall growing up, what do you remember about family life being like for you as a youth?
I think it was a normal family life, get up in the morning, have breakfast, run out of the house, get on my bicycle, and, come back when the streetlights went on was when you had to come back. And I don't think my mom knew where I was all day long. Didn't matter. Or sometimes we'd go to the local community swimming pool every day, swimming and playing ping pong, which I still do with my buddies. And that was pretty much it, And then, of course, the musical thing, playing in a band was a big part of my, I guess you could say, my youth, my later youth. I started when I was 13 or 14. So through high school, I was playing guitar and, playing some gigs, making a couple bucks, and it was a couple bucks. The first job my band played, we got $5 for the whole band. That was $1 a man.
Wow.
Yeah. I should have read the sign right then and there. I should have learned.
Yeah, but it's passion. It's not about money at that point. It's about, trying to live out the dream that you have as a young guy.
Yeah. It continues to be about passion, because most musicians are, seriously underpaid. And you spend thousands of dollars for an instrument, and then you go out and you play for 3 or 4 hours and you get, $100, $50, But every now and then somebody hits big, like Taylor Swift, who was one of my customers, she hit it pretty big. So every now and then somebody hits it, Do
you have other siblings in the house, or are you only child?
Nope. I was an only child, and I convinced my mom. We were at a local fair, and the local music store had a display and had an electric guitar there. I guess a bunch of other stuff, but all I saw was the guitar. And it was a contest. Win this guitar, win this guitar in lessons, I think it was. So I convinced my mom to put in a thing, and sure enough, we won second place. which wasn't the guitar, but it was 6 free guitar lessons, and they loaned you a guitar, which was the cheapest guitar ever made on the face of the earth. And I went to the lesson. There were about 50 people that won second place.
Wow.
And all 50 of us were in a room, and the lesson was like, put your finger here, strum like this, and then let's show you some guitars to buy. So the lesson was like half play the guitar, half here's some guitars you can buy. But I remember I went home and I practiced that thing like crazy. And I remember saying to my mom, hey, I can kind of do this. And that was sort of the start of it. You know, pretty interesting.
Did you find it weird being an only child, or since that's your only environment, then this is just the way it is? Especially if you look around your friends, have other brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I didn't know anything different, but I think I was lonely. At the time, I thought I was lonely not having any brothers and sisters, but I read a book later years ago called Only the Lonely, about only child, traits they get growing up, and you get independence, and you have to do everything yourself. Yeah. You learn to be very independent. You learn to be entrepreneurial, maybe. And that was me, So I just practiced that guitar and practiced it and decided I was going to be able to play that thing. Got some lessons, and that was the start of it. So that was let me see, maybe 1965. So that's pretty many years.
What's the food scene like as you're growing up?
Well, I'm Italian. I'm 100% Italian, so there was a lot of Italian food, and I don't think there was any grilling except if the family, and I mean it was a big family, big Italian family, so if there was any grilling, it was hot dogs and hamburgers. That was it. My mother, the families, they didn't know anything about any other kind of food, but they were all fabulous cooks, all of them. Yeah. And my aunt, who was a tremendous cook, when I was 8 years old, stood me on a kitchen chair at her stove and taught me how to make scrambled eggs. I remember that. And other than that, though, there was a lot of pasta. And Sundays, we always had roast chicken on Sundays, and roast potatoes in my house. And then one night of the week, it was usually spaghetti, some kind of spaghetti or pasta. But I was around good food, that's for sure. So always around good food.
Are they not bringing you in to the kitchen and be like, Freddie, we're going to teach you the secret sauce recipe, or here's the trick to meatballs, or did you have to ask in order to be included?
No, well, like I say, my one aunt stood me on a chair and showed me how to make scrambled eggs, because I always liked scrambled eggs so much. But other than that, no, there wasn't too much of it, but I picked up a lot of it. Yeah, I can cook all the recipes at my mother's sauce. I cook these specialty peppers, dried peppers. I dry peppers. I just strung a whole bunch of them and have them in my basement drying. And I cook them, fry them a certain way. Nobody's ever seen it. It's very rare. You have to be. I'm not Calabrian. I'm Abruzzese from the Abruzzi region. But in Calabria, in Italy, they do a lot of the pepper. Well, they got a lot of pepper dishes. But anyway, so I learned to make all those, a lot of those Italian things just from being around my mother, sort of by osmosis, I guess you could say. But there was never anything like barbecued stuff at all. The ribs went into sauce. Spare ribs went into sauce, and that was it. That was the only time I had any kind of ribs, was in sauce, and they were good. Yeah.
High school years. You a good student, or you just trying to get by and you got other stuff on your mind?
I pretty much just tried to get by.
Yeah.
And
I imagine you're pretty into music at that point too.
I was really into the music thing. So that kind of, because I was a little bit socially behind. I went to Catholic school for the first 7 years, well, till 8th grade. And in 9th grade, I transferred to public school, which is where all my friends were. And so I was kind of socially behind. They had all been together for all those years, and here comes this kid from Catholic school. But because I played the guitar, I immediately was in bands and in the stage band, et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of helped me, get in the swing of things socially. And then, of course, I was playing at the school dances and playing in the school shows. And, anytime anybody needed a guitar player, I got the call, which still happens kind of sometimes.
Were you
sometimes still get the call.
Were you eventually college bound, or were you done after?
Yeah, so I went to college. Nobody in my family went to college, and all my dad wanted for me was to go to college. So I went to college, and as far as college goes, I was a really good guitar player. I'm not such a good college student.
Yeah. You graduate?
So I pretty much dropped. Well, I don't know. After 2 years, I wasn't going there anymore. Is that graduation? No, I don't think so. I just kind of dropped out. Was flunking out. Would have dropped out.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was play in the guitar, get in a band, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So, at that point, my dad said to me, well, now you're not in college anymore. Now you got to start paying us room and board, and you got to go get a job. Well, I started putting my name out to bands in the area and outside of the area, and I got a call. Within a couple of weeks, I got a call from a really good band in the Allentown area, Lehigh Valley, which is about half an hour, 40 minutes from us.
Yeah.
I get a call from this really good band up there, come and audition. So I get my gear, I go up there. I don't know who anybody is. I go up there, I auditioned, and they auditioned about 20 guitar players, including some pretty good ones. And I remember him saying to me, well, you can sing, right? And I said, sure. But I hadn't really ever done any singing, so I just faked it. And I had a second audition. I had to drive to Wilkes-Barre, which is about, 2.5 hours, and play on stage in this really low-class bar, like a college bar thing. I played a set of music with Aaron. They set me down and said, hey, you got the job, you get a salary. I went home and said to my dad, this was kind of a pretty organized thing with like agents and trucks and
really,
but it played dives, it played bars.
Was it an original band or were you doing covers?
No, it was all covers.
Yeah.
Rock and roll band, all covers, 5-piece, but good, very versatile, and very popular. And
you knew them?
I actually was salaried. So I go home and I tell my dad the next day. My dad said to me, hey, did you get a job yet? And I say, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm going on the road in 3 days. I got hired by a band. And he said, that isn't a job. How much are you getting paid? And I told him what my salary was. And he said, oh, because it was pretty decent.
When was this? What year is this?
So this had to be 1970 or 71.
Yeah.
Probably 71.
What do you make as a singer in 71 for a cover band?
Well, I was a guitar player.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So guitar player, and I sang, a little background with the guys, My salary was $125 a week. And in those days, that was a ton of dough.
Wow.
Really?
Really?
Seriously, that was really, really good money. Yeah, really good money.
Wow.
And, yeah. Hey, dude, it was 50 some years ago. It was good money. And I was off and running, man.
Yeah.
I rehearsed.
You're a pro.
I learned 60 songs in 2 nights and played the next couple hundred nights in a row. And the first year I only had 2 nights off. I had, I think it was either Easter and Christmas or Thanksgiving and Christmas.
How far are you traveling?
Well, from kind of like New England, like we went to Montpelier, Vermont.
Yeah.
Down to maybe the Jersey Shore and Delaware. Up and down, up and down, up and down. And the agents who made a cut of your pay, they sat home watching TV, and it was their job to just keep you running. So we were running around like crazy, playing every night. We did all the work, and they got their piece.
So what's the
and after about
is the stretch goal here that Fred gets seen by a quote unquote real band, and then they solicit you away from the cover band, or are you just together going, hey, this is what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. We're playing music, we're getting paid, and this is what we're going to do. Everybody knows us.
I don't think anybody thought about any of that.
Really?
We were just out. Well, we were having fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And rehearsing in the afternoons, playing every night. Then literally rehearsing every afternoon, playing from 9:30 to 2 a.m. every night. And there wasn't any thought of any of that stuff. For me, I was just trying to develop my skills as a guitar player. And after about a year and a half, I realized this is no way to live your life, man.
It feels like that's like a hard life on the road.
Yeah, it was fun though.
Yeah.
But after a year and a half,
you get broads doing that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Groupies?
But I had a girlfriend at the time, but there were plenty of girls around. Trust me. Yeah. Venereal disease was around too.
Yeah, sure. Penicillin, your best friend.
Yeah, but nothing that killed anybody.
That's right.
It was fun, and for me, it was mostly playing the guitar was what I wanted to do. And when I left Reading and got in that band, this band was called The Uproar, by the way. They're still kind of known up there.
Wow.
When I left Reading, I was a kid that played guitar. And a year and a half later, when I got back to Reading, I was a professional guitar player.
Yeah.
because I had played almost every night, 400 or 500 nights in a row. And that's how you develop your skills. That's what it takes. It really takes every night.
So was there a thought? I mean, I assume any kid that picks up the guitar, I never picked it up once, but any kid that picks up a guitar and really is going to make it a go, there's some dream that they want to become the next, you name the greatest guitar player, be in a great band. Did you ever want to be in a great original band?
Of course I would have wanted to be in a great band.
Yeah. You have opportunity?
That's, I had an audition for Chicago when Terry Kath unfortunately took his own life.
Yeah. Wow.
And I could play all those tunes pretty decently. And the audition was a William Morris agency in New York. And the band I was with had a gig that night in some crummy bar somewhere, so I couldn't go. So I didn't even go. But it required a lot of singing, and I wouldn't have been a strong enough singer for the part anyway. They wanted more of a singer than a guitar player, it turned out at the time. I found out later.
And then Peter Cetera was brought on instead of Fred Bernardo.
Well, no, he was there as the bass player.
Yeah.
This was Terry Kath that had left. Yeah. And those were big shoes to fill, both as a singer and a guitar player.
Yeah.
So, Jimi Hendrix called him the greatest rock and roll guitar player. So he was a pretty good guitar player.
When do you meet your wife?
So this is my second wife I'm with now.
All right. Yeah.
We got together about 25 years ago or so, just give or take. I have 2 children from my first wife, and my son has 2 grandchildren. They're about 10 and 12 years old-ish. And my wife and I are very happy here. We're in Reading, Pennsylvania, suburbs of Reading, Pennsylvania, near Shillington, Pennsylvania.
Tropical.
I used to say beautiful downtown Shillington on my videos, and then I would have to add, of course, it's not beautiful and there's no downtown. People would come into the store and say, we drove past like 6 times because we were looking for downtown.
You're on Main Street, pal. You drove past it 8 times.
Yeah. Well, I stole that line from Johnny Carson. He used to say beautiful downtown Burbank or something on his show.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was it. I was a professional guitar player. And then I realized.
With the first marriage, was it just like, young and grew apart kind of a thing, or weirder than that?
I'd say so.
Yeah. I'd
say so. Had a couple of kids and blah, 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 blah. And then it wasn't happening anymore.
Yeah.
And by chance, I sort of casually knew my current wife, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, meeting her, getting together with her. So everything worked out just great. Just great.
We'll dive into this. We got a minute before we break here, but how does your business start to form? Not the barbecue business, because I assume the guitar business was first before the guitar stuff. So or the barbecue stuff. So how does guitar business start?
Yeah, so I came off the road. I decided that this was no way to make to have a life being on the road. So I left the band and came back to Reading, and I just had the idea that there were 5 music stores in Reading, Pennsylvania, and none of them had the kind of gear that musicians wanted. They were all like old piano organ, mom and pop. Some of them had refrigerators. And I thought, we need a specialty guitar store. And I didn't have any money, but I had this idea. So I rented a storefront downtown in a pretty bad neighborhood for $35 a month. And I got the lease, $35 a month. I remember I took my dad and showed it to my dad, and he said, "You didn't pay $35 for this. You got ripped off." Anyway, $35 a month. I hung my spare guitar on the wall to sell. I got some samples from some companies. I put them out and sold them. And then, sell guitars. Sell 1, buy 2, sell 2, buy 3, sell 3, buy 5. And turned into a pretty big business for me. I was at that location for 13 years. A couple years later, bought the building. That's how I did it. It seems like it would be impossible, but I did it.
What year do you come off the road and get the business started?
72.
Oh,
I opened the store in September of 72.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. $35. I don't know. And what's interesting is, so I was about 19, 20 years old. My son has a major bicycle shop here in the area, and he started when he was 19 or 20 by himself. Now there he had me to give him, help him out with a couple bucks, but He's still a one man show and has a. I mean, if you're a serious bicycle rider, you go to him.
Oh yeah,
he's your man.
All right.
You know, he's in the business about over 20 years now already.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, being a musician didn't look like a very good way to do things, so I opened a store, and then I played gigs at night, various bands.
Let's pause here. We'll finish up with music, and then we'll figure out how barbecue wormed its way into the music world, and then they really kind of separated, and you had the music store and the barbecue supply store. So we'll talk about that here in a second. Give me 2 minutes here. We'll be right back with Fred Bernardo as we're getting his origin story here, as he is part of the 2024's Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. Oh, what did I do with it? Here we go. So for the second time in maybe a month and a half, we have new information from Pits and Spits unveiling their cutting-edge built-in pellet grill. That's right. Out of Houston, Texas, excited to announce the launch of its groundbreaking built-in pellet grill, a revolutionary addition designed to elevate outdoor cooking with unparalleled precision and convenience. The new grill merging cutting-edge technology with robust construction, setting a new standard for grilling excellence. Crafted in that prototypical 304 stainless steel that you've come to know and love from Pits and Spits, the built-in pellet grill boasts a sleek, fully welded design that promises both durability, longevity. The grill features the iconic Pits and Spits roll-top lid and a strategically positioned rear smokestack to enhance user comfort by directing smoke away from the cooking area. Notable features, of course, the aforementioned 304 stainless steel construction, advanced touchscreen and wireless controller, integrated 18-pound pellet hopper with a front-load design with innovative lid lock mechanism to keep moisture at bay, the heat spreader, deflector plate, trapdoor drip pan, and removable grease chute, modular grading system, and silicone nitride hot rod rated for 100,000 cycles, delivering reliable, consistent ignition. The Pits and Spits built-in pellet grill now available for purchase over at pitsandspits.com. With over 40 years of expertise in creating high-quality smokers, grills, and accessories, Pits and Spits remains at the forefront of innovation in outdoor cooking. The diverse range of products from traditional offset smokers to advanced wood pellet grills reflect their commitment to excellence and enhance every grilling experience. Pitsandspits.com is the website. That's pitsandspits.com, and it's the double T on the pits and the spits. So if you're in the market for a built-in pellet grill, you can now consider Pits and Spits at the top of your list. We're back with more Fred Bernardo right after this. Stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard, makers of Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, and the new Fireboard Pulse. When you use the Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the world. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call with your questions, 816-945-2232. And Fred Bernardo joins us for the second portion of the hour. So the guitar business seems to be going swimmingly. You buy the building that you were renting for $35 a month. Where does barbecue start to seep into this?
Well, I bought that building, and I was there for 13 years. Then I moved to the suburbs with my store and grew the business. And, well, I forget what the year was, but one year for Christmas, my wife we saw one of the barbecue competition things, one of the TV shows, one of the early TV shows.
Yeah.
Like a lot of bull was on it.
Yeah,
And,
so it was
I think
probably
maybe
Barbecue Pitmasters, but like 3 or 4 iterations before that. So Chris
It was
Lilly
the
was
very
probably
early
on
one,
there, and Leanne Whippen, and Mike Davis. And,
she was on it.
yep.
Anyway, for Christmas, my wife never knew what to buy me because if I want something, I just go buy it. So I'm kind of hard to buy for.
Yeah.
And she got the idea to buy me a smoker. And she started asking around because she didn't know anything about smokers. And somebody said to her, you should just get him a big green egg. And it's like, what's that thing? And she found the dealer and she went and she bought me a big green egg. And I think right after Christmas, I told my buddy I got this thing and he showed up at my house. It was my accountant and my buddy. Showed up at my house with a pork butt, one morning and he said, put this thing on that grill. So I put it on there. Overnight, I looked on the web or somewhere, told me how to do it, make it 250 degrees, put the rub on it, blah, 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 put the smoky wood in there, leave it in there. And I remember it was a winter night and it was like freezing rain and I had it on the back deck, sort of. And before I went to bed, I remember looking out and thinking, that thing's frozen solid, and went to bed. And I got up in the morning and I opened up the back door and I called my wife and I said, it smells like an Oklahoma pig roast out here. We opened this thing up and this hunk of pork was like, whoa, I brought that thing in the house and we started literally yanking pieces of pork off there, eating it.
Yeah.
It was like I called my buddy up and said, dude, you have got to come over here. That this is like the best piece of meat I ever ate in my life. You have got to come over here. He ran over and we were like tearing this thing apart, eating it, this pork butt.
Wow.
Anyway, and that was kind of the start of it, and I was having trouble. The music business has gone through some phases, and dealers dealing with manufacturers is always a hassle. And
yep.
The Fender Guitar Company was giving me a lot of hassle. I had been a dealer there since 1975, and they got a new rep, and he of course gets the pressure put on him to sell more stuff. And he calls me up and he says, "You got to buy like a lot more stuff this year." And I said, "Well, I bought a lot like last year and the year before, and I'm loaded. I am loaded for bear. Last thing I need to do is buy more." And he said, if you don't buy this amount, and it was a huge number, I'm going to have to drop you as a dealer. This is after like 35 years of being loyal. I learned later that this is in all businesses. Anyway,
yeah,
I hung up the phone and I told him I had a right-hand man, Toby, and I said, Toby, guess what so-and-so just said to me? I told him, and he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start selling grills. Oh, I said, we're going to start selling smokers. And he thought I meant like cigars or something.
Yeah.
Smokers, I said, yeah, like grills. And he said, really? And I said, yep. We need something else to fall back on around here. So we're not dependent on a couple of guitar companies.
Yeah.
And I cleaned out the one. I had 2 buildings side by side, kind of shared. Cleaned the one out. And in went the big green eggs and various other stuff, and we started selling the stuff right away. Nobody was selling that stuff.
What year do you think?
They're good. I don't know.
Like early 2000s?
No, it was later than that. So I retired 7 years ago, I think. And it was probably, I think some of my videos are 15 years old almost. So it might have been 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So when is that? 2010, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, that was the start of it. In came the big green eggs. I called up the big green egg rep. He had nobody was giving him any action at all. So he was happy to have. I mean, I was just loaded up with those things. I knew I could sell them. And I sold a big green egg to like everybody in town. I sold big green eggs to some of my guys that are now my buddies that these guys literally could not boil water and put a hot dog in it. And next thing you know, they're smoking briskets, So I sold a lot of big green eggs.
Did you bring in?
And then I got into pellet grills,
How do you know? It's so you see a lot of barbecue supply companies out there nowadays. Some of them have branched into regional chains or local chains where they got a number. There's a guy down in Houston that's got 5 or 6 stores around Houston area. I mean, it's a big metropolitan area. But back in 2010. How do you know what to bring in? Who are you consulting from there's business acumen and expertise that needs to take place to make sure you're making money.
Well, you know what I discovered? And same thing, my employees selling grills were the guys that were selling guitars, the musicians. And it turns out it's just gearheads. You know, if you're a gearhead for one thing, you can be a gearhead for the other thing. I mean, the guys that were guitar players selling guitar gear, they started selling Big Green Eggs like it was nothing, you know, because it was just another piece of gear. You learned how to work it. You knew all its ins and outs. You knew how to sell it, and they just started going. Then I got some pellet grills, and I got, hell, I don't remember all the stuff I had. I had a lot of stuff.
What brand of pellet grills were you
rubs.
running back then?
Traegers.
Traegers, yeah.
Traegers, yeah. That was the only thing around. They were made in the U.S. They were made in like the Northwest somewhere.
Yeah, out in Oregon.
And it was still the Traeger family, I think,
yeah.
as a matter of fact. And then Green Mountain, I got contacted by the Green Mountain guy, who I talk to him. His son actually runs the company now, and I talk to him from time to time. Jason Baker, yeah.
Yep.
And, he took that Traeger grill and just like did all the things that Traeger should have did at that time. Made it bigger, made the pellet hopper bigger, I guess he made it overseas, so it was much cheaper. And we started selling those things. I sold a lot of those things. And then one day, it's funny because at one point, my wife, years before that, had said something about we ought to sell everything we own and go on the road being a barbecue competition team. Which is, if you knew my wife, that's not the daring part about going on the road and stuff is her, but she didn't have any interest in barbecue. It was just a random thought. And years later, here I am with this barbecue thing. And one of my buddies said to me, we ought to put a team together and go get in them contests, Well, that was all I needed. That was all I needed, So we did one contest. We loaded up my van with a couple pellet grills. We did one and we did okay at it. And that was it. Well, that was all I needed, man. We were into it big time. Next thing you know, we had the RV barbecue one, and we were pulling a Jambo, whole deal. That's how it went. I mean, that's a crazy thing. You spend a lot of money and what do you get? It's almost like being in a band.
I was going to say, you're doing it because you're passionate. You were passionate about playing the guitar, and now you're passionate about doing barbecue. The thing, so I called you a Renaissance man in the show open because back then there were few people doing what you were doing. So, I mean, there was a fair amount of people getting into the rub and sauce game, but you were like, it was you and Kevin Bevington from Home BBQ that I remember just being prolific rub makers, all different flavors for different everything. And then you came out with the sauce, and you were unique in the fact that your original sauce and the original rub, the rub was in the sauce. It was like so easily compatible across, not like stuck
that was
with
a
me
kind
forever.
of brilliant idea.
But I mean, not a lot of other people were doing that. Like, it made total sense. You're like, hey, we're using the same spice block here in the sauce. It's all going to mix and match together. Made perfect sense.
Plus, it was already mixed. I just sent the rub to the sauce company, and they dumped it in with the rest of the ingredients. Speaking of the rubs, here I have it. Can I turn it? I don't know which way to turn it.
The tree hugger rub. Turn it the other way.
Tree hugger.
Yeah, one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Tree hugger. The last remaining bottle. The last remaining jug of tree hugger.
Wow.
How
old is that?
That was the veggie rub. It's 7 or 8 years old.
That was one of my favorite rubs.
If it's sealed, as long as it has that seal on the top, it keeps its freshness.
Yeah.
So I just opened this one last week. So this will start losing its freshness because this has a lot of garlicky. It's actually salt that garlic oil is sprayed on, and it's really an intense garlic smell. But then it starts losing it. But I do have a substitute for anybody who wants tree hugger. Can I announce it right here on the show?
Would you call this a breaking news update?
This would be breaking news. I got a bigger one for you then. But this is a little mini. This is a
Barbecue
teaser.
Central Show exclusive news update.
We'll do it. Greg Rappy reporting from the Breakings News Desk here in Cleveland, Ohio. Going to Fred Bernardo filing this report.
Right. If you like tree hugger, you can't get it anywhere, obviously. It's off the market. I took it off the market. So what you can do is this is an herbed garlic salt. So I checked around and tested a couple of things. And Lawry's, Lawrys, they have an herbed garlic salt. And it's almost identical to this. And you can get it at I think you can probably get it on Amazon or Walmart or something. Sam's Club, maybe.
Herbed garlic salt
I don't
from
know.
Lowry's.
Herbed garlic salt. It has like a green label, I think.
Yeah, probably.
And I tried a whole bunch of different ones and of different garlic salts, and that one was like it even looked like this. Had like little bits of, because this has herbs in it. So if you can't get Tree Hugger, now you know what you can get in place of it. How you like that?
That's a good hack, as we say these days.
Yeah, it is a hack. That's a hack. That was a hack before hacks were born.
We used to use that all the time on potatoes going on the grill, and then whenever I would grill asparagus, it was always getting clobbered with Tree Hugger rub. My wife loved Tree Hugger rub.
And if you do chicken, if you put a little bit of dried rosemary, like I would take the rosemary and grind it in my hand so it was not quite as big sticks, so the sticks would break, and put it with this. Perfect. As a matter of fact, it tastes exactly like my mother's roast chicken. Rosemary and this stuff.
When did you realize there was going to be value in shooting videos and putting them on YouTube? Because you were way ahead of the time on that one.
Oh boy, if I only would have kept it up. I don't know.
You could be Malcolm Reed.
We just started doing it. I could be Joe Rogan. We just started doing it, and I would do it. Well, and the concept was without thinking about it. I never planned it, but it became like a comedy cooking show.
Yes.
And without thinking about it, I just started doing it. And now that you mention it, I can't remember what made me start doing it. And then we would do it every Saturday. Well, then it became a sales tool.
Yeah.
So on a Saturday, I'd go into the store and I'd say to the guys, what do we need to sell? What do we got that we need to sell? And they'd say, well, this chicken rack. And I'd say, okay, somebody go get me some chicken. They'd go to the store and get some chicken, and we'd fire up some grills out in front of the store, and I'd start shooting the video of this chicken with this chicken rack. But all along the way, I'm selling now, Tree Hugger, put Tree Hugger on it. And then here's the chicken, here's the rack, here's the grabber thingers, here's the drip pan, and they were all on the website, and I'd put links to the website below, and I don't know if you remember any of those videos, but then at the end I'd have the tasting session. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The innocent bystanders.
Yeah, innocent bystanders, yeah.
Well, I'd say I got some innocent bystanders. Anyway, people would come into my store on the weekends from like Cincinnati, New England, Europe, and they'd come in and say, we want to be innocent bystanders. I'd say, sure, just wait over there. The chicken's almost done,
Wow.
And I'd get them up and I'd line them up behind me. And if I didn't have any innocent bystanders, it would all be employees back there,
right?
Lined up.
Well, you mentioned Toby was your right-hand guy in the music store, but I remember you calling Toby's name out during the cooking videos.
Yeah, a lot of times he was doing the filming, but that's what it was for. It morphed into, we got this thing we want to sell. Let's shoot a video, And I was getting a lot of hits. And as a matter of fact, this is another announcement. I just started posting videos again. I got a little ambitious and I posted about a half a dozen of them last week. I've been on this keto diet thing for the last few years.
Yeah.
So I posted some videos of some cooking of that kind of stuff. I did a steak on a big green egg. I did some tomato salad last week. And so there are a bunch of videos going up. The video, the YouTube, my homepage is the home of the Smokin guitar player. And all the old ones are still on there. All the legacy ones are on there. So
I have somebody in the instant chat, Diane Me from the West Coast, actually, who knows you because she's saying, "Oh, please make him sing Barbecue One, the song that you debuted on my show 15 years ago."
Yeah.
Is he still making pizza? Because evidently she remembers pizza was pretty big in your videos back then.
I had about a year where I did pizzas. I flew out to Tony Gemignani's school in San Francisco, and then I was doing pizzas on the egg. I mean, I got really good at it. I was selling brick ovens, but unfortunately, I don't even remember the Barbecue One song. I don't remember that, but I was doing pizzas. We were doing all kinds of pizza stuff, sauces. I was doing classes, videos all over the place, and those videos are still on there, and some of them they're pretty good pizza videos. I developed a method. I kept calling Tony back and forth and working on this. An easy way of making pizza in one bowl, making the dough in one bowl so you didn't have a mess. It took about half an hour, and real artisanal pizza dough.
Yeah.
And then the sauce, same deal with the sauce, and sometimes I put Tree Hugger in the sauce, of course. Remember, more is better. Put a lot of it in there. That way I sell more.
Why?
And
you said you retired 7 years ago.
About 7 years ago.
Why do you get out of it? You just had enough?
It's funny. I'm like all or nothing. Like I've always been all or nothing. Like I have a couple hobbies now, and it's all or nothing.
Are you a clay shooter?
I'm a clay shooter. Yeah, sporting clays. I'm an instructor. I'm a certified instructor.
Is that what you're into now?
Yeah. It's one of the things. Yeah. About 4 or 5 years ago, one of my buddies who was just retiring. There were 3 or 4 of us that retired at one time. Here, wait. Let me do this. This is our group hat, the Raptors, retired area professionals turned redneck. Retired area professionals turned redneck. Because we were like fishing and hunting and shooting guns and stuff. But my one buddy said, let's go down to the gun club and shoot some trap with shotguns. So we all went out and bought cheap shotguns. And we went and we shot trap. And man, I used to do it when I was younger. And man, I was terrible at it. I mean, absolutely terrible. I couldn't figure out why I was so bad.
Were you using the wrong eye to line it up?
I was aiming, and I was even saying to my buddies, I don't understand it. I'm aimed right at it. Why am I not hitting it? So finally, in frustration, after 3 or 4 weeks of trying to shoot these clays on a trap field, there's a lot of trap shooting around here, I called up a local guy who was an instructor. I saw his name on the National Sporting Clays Association list. Called him up. He said, get a case of shells and meet me at the Sporting Clays place. Well, I don't even know what it was. And I said to my buddy, a case of shells? Does he mean a case? That's like 250 shells. Oh, well, I don't know. So I bought a case of shells and I went up there and I shot about 200 of them that day.
Wow.
And he said to me, look at the clay, not the sights on the gun, like a baseball when you're hitting a baseball. And it was like a revelation. And then since there, I've had lessons from some of the world champions and I shoot regularly, I shoot every weekend. I shoot sometimes midweek. I was up practicing yesterday.
I'm going to shoot sporting clays for the first time tomorrow for some team building event at work. Yeah.
Like a charity event or a team building thing?
Just team building.
You'll have fun.
My boss and me and the 2 other guys that hold director positions at the company I work for.
Yeah, well, you want me to tell you how to do it?
Look at the clay.
Look at the clay.
Yeah.
Look at the clay.
I'm glad we met up. I'm glad we reconnected tonight. That way I can be an ace tomorrow.
Just remember to put the gun against your face and look at the clay.
All right.
And you'll be surprised, and they'll wonder how you hit them. But yeah, a year and a half ago, I flew to Florida. There's a high level instructor down there that had 12 people and got us certified as, level, they call us level 1 instructors. It's like beginner to intermediate.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that. And luckily, that gets me out of the house, keeps me moving. I made new friends. I've got some buddies. I get more sunshine than I got in 40 years, the last 5 years, because I'm out in the sporting clays course.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's, I do it 100% or nothing. And, I decided to lose some weight 6 months ago or so, and I went on this carnivore diet, and I'm down 60 pounds. And same thing, all or nothing. Like, I won't cheat. I will not cheat. I will not eat a piece of a cookie. Ain't gonna have it.
Yeah.
And then I started cooking all that stuff too. So it kind of ties in. Meat, happens to be a good barbecue thing for videos.
Indeed, everybody loves it.
Love that. Love them ribeyes.
Fred, this has been
so that's what I've been up to.
An incredible joy and honor for me to get back in touch with you, get caught up, get to know where Fred came from, what it was like. I figured music was a big part of it, but hearing you were actually in a traveling band, something I didn't know about, and then always tried to figure out how we connect music supply and barbecue supply, but it all makes sense at this point. So,
do you play? Do you play an instrument?
No. I still do it. I
still work some gigs.
For a fleeting moment, I played.
You should learn to play
cello.
guitar.
I played the cello.
No,
I did.
No.
They used to call me Young Yo-Yo Ma back in the day.
Oh yes, that thing's hard. Yeah. You need to learn to play guitar. Guitar is easy.
Well,
but I've played every kind of gig. I've played with Greek bands and Broadway show musicals in the pit with orchestras and I play a duo with a guy with a mandolin player. We play Italian music now from time to time. So I've always been like the on-call guitar player around here, because I wasn't with a steady band because I didn't want to do that. So if somebody needs me, they call me, I go play.
For hire, the Smokin guitar player.
Sort of for hire, yeah, that's it. The Smokin guitar player.
All right. Fred, really appreciate the conversation here tonight. It's been my honor, and always appreciated your support of the show over the years.
Barbecue in Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Forgot that. Was on partial
what happened
automation.
to the theme song?
Partial automation.
What happened to the theme song? You didn't play the theme song.
Oh, yeah. I lost it somewhere.
I sent you the file.
I know.
Oh, well.
Maybe in the second hour I'll play it as a tribute as we walk off here.
You can play it as a tribute. Yeah, it's not me playing on there, by the way. It's some Nashville dude, but
thank you very much. It's the essence of what people think of when it would be your walk-up song if we were, going to put you in bat,
It's going to be my walk-off song right now.
That's right. Fred, appreciate the time tonight. Thanks so much for doing it.
Greg, it was fantastic talking to you again and remembering those times.
You got it.
Seriously.
There he is.
Keep in touch.
Fred Bernardo right there, a 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame inductee, along with the likes of Steve Ray, Chris Young, Matt Frampton. By the way, the rings have been ordered, and I just got a note today that indeed they have been shipped as well. So soon enough, we'll be shipping those rings out to the 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame class, guest Hall of Fame class. So looking forward to that. Wow, that was great. All right, so I'm trying to think of where that thing came in from. Let's keep that. Oh, boy. Well, this could be a nightmare, but we might be able to save it. Hey, all right, we did that. All right, Fred Bernardo right there, the Smokin guitar player. Great to see Diane Mee making call-outs from the last time Fred was on, or when she was obviously used to probably visit his website. Maybe she was a customer. Is he still making pizzas? Sing Barbecue One. I think those were the only lyrics. Barbecue One. Barbecue One. He doesn't remember those lyrics? Speaking of ceramic cookers and not the big green egg, what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for the high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts, but what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers, the real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks. It's the best way to manage a fire, cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic because it's round. Enter Primo in the game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. Also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cooker. So you're only limited by your culinary imagination. Sold through dealers only, so you have to visit a dealer in order for you to really get the feel of it. See these different oval sizes in person. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Patented technology? You betcha. True two-zone cooking capabilities with multiple sizes? Yes and yes. Visit primogrill.com to find a dealer near you. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram. All right, we'll wrap the show. We'll wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is John Dawson of Patio Daddy-O Barbecue in Boise, Idaho, and I've got it locked on the 50,000 gigawatt blowtorch of the internet that is Barbecue Central.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Diane Mee weighing in once again, saying if I would have dropped by the store back then if I had ever been to Shilling, Pennsylvania, or if she had ever had occasion to be in Shillington, Pennsylvania. I don't know why many people would have occasion to be in Shillington, Pennsylvania, unless you were going to Fred's Music Supply or Tasty Licks Barbecue Supply. In the beginning, it was Fred's Music and Tasty Licks Supply. Or maybe it was Fred's Music and Barbecue Supply. It was one or the other, and then they separated them out at some point. All right, we're 4 to 5 minutes over the top of the hour. We got to do an abridged to open, and then we have guests to get to in the second hour as well. Once again, I appreciate Fred Bernardo for taking the time and doing the first hour, the origin story. One of four? One of five that will happen here, hopefully before the year ends or as we crest into 2025. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show. Stick around. We'll be right back.